Okay, so this is my aspect video discussing moon's aspects, which is just the seventh aspect. So let's explain and talk about what is moon. Moon rules the sign of Cancer, and Cancer in the moon originally rules the fourth house, and moon gains directional strength and feels real strong and great being placed in the fourth house in a person's chart. So the moon naturally represents your mind, your emotions. It represents the mother or mother-like figure in your life. And the deity associated with moon is known as Chandra, or aka Soma. Moon represents water and all type of like liquids and fluids. The moon can even be associated with nourishing, because Soma, and I'm just talking about the other name for the moon, which is Soma, but Soma, the elixir, is a drink, an elixir that the Devas drink in Hindu mythology that restores supposedly their strength. It gives them strength and life and vitality and maybe other things that I probably don't even comprehend mythologically. But it's a very nourishing drink and elixir to the gods, to the devas. So moon, being also known as Soma, shows that, you know, the quality of moon can be nourishing. And it shows that moon can be associated with maybe intoxication and or fluids and drinking. Because the deity Indra is the one who is selfish with the elixir mythologically, and he tries his best to keep the elixir from falling to either the hands of wrong people or just falling to the hands of people who he feared might try to rise above him and take him from his throne, because Indra is known as the king and leader of the Devas. So he selfishly guards the Soma, and he guards his position, and he's willing to do any underhanded means and tricks and methods to protect his throne. So we can take from that story and apply to the Graha, the moon, is that moon, Soma, is very important. It's very important, and the moon is a graha, because graha means something that moves across the sky, something that travels across the sky. In Vedic astrology, the planets and all the astrological bodies are formally or properly known as grahas. That way you don't have to keep referring to sun and moon or Rahu and Ketu as planets, because they're not literally planets, of course, but we just call them planets because it's easier. But the proper form is Graha, Graha. Like I said, it shows us that the moon is very important, just like Soma is very important. And the moon does not like to be alone. One of the planetary yogas that I do not know exactly off the top of my head, but I believe, I don't know the name off the top of my head, but there's this particular yoga that if there is no planets from the 12th or 2nd house from the moon, and if there is no benefic planet aspect in the moon, then that is a yoga where one could feel very depressed in life or be very poor and unfortunate in life. And actually, I did make a video on this. I made a video on this in my playlists. It's called How to View Depression in Someone's Birth Chart. Go check that out. It should be in my moon playlist. But yes, the moon does not like to be alone. The moon changes its sign every 2.5 days. The moon travels another nakshatra every day. Every day is in a new nakshatra. It's always on the move. It does not like to be alone. It's very sociable. It needs to rely on something. That's what I'm getting at with the moon before I go and talk about the aspect. The moon needs to rely on something. It doesn't want to be alone. So what else does the moon represent? Yeah, I basically hit the nail on the head. Mother, and also the moon is a significator. It's a natural significator of the fourth house. It's a natural significator of a home. Just like Mars is a significator of a land, Moon is a significator of a home. And I'll go and explain again, because I believe I talked about the difference of this, of Mars being a land and Moon being a home, either in my Mars aspect video or my intro to aspects video. I don't remember which ones, but I don't mind repeating myself. Mars signifies land. Anything can go on land. A prison can go on top of land. A construction site can go on top of land. Mars just represents land. It's almost like the saying, a house is not a home. Mars doesn't care if you have like a loving, comfortable house to sleep in. Mars gives off the energy and vibes of a soldier, of a Navy SEAL. You know, they are prepared and trained to be in tough conditions and environments. They know they're not checking into some 5-star hotel when they go and work for the government as a soldier, you know. So Mars is just a natural significator of land. Mars can just give you land. It doesn't matter if the land is comfortable or not. He's just going to give you land, and whatever happens, happens. But Moon has a natural signification of the fourth house. It has the natural significations of a mother who wants to hold and nurture and cradle you and protect you. So a mother stereotypically, or at least on paper, will want to nurture you and shelter you and protect you and love you. That's what a mom would like to do. So Moon, when I say that it signifies a home, it really signifies maybe a place where you feel nurtured and protected and comfortable. It can naturally signify a nice home, a nice dwelling, potentially. Of course, a bunch of aspects and house placements, it has a huge influence on that, but you get what I'm saying. So let's talk about the seventh aspect of Moon. As I've said in my previous aspect videos, with the seventh aspect, the planet is basically taking the significations of the moon, of itself, and the house it sits in, and it shares it with the other house. Another thing that I have to say about the moon before I begin, I gotta give all these little warnings and context before I just start telling y'all stuff. The moon is like really a chameleon type of graha, meaning that its personalities and traits and all that stuff greatly varies based upon the sign it's in and the planet it's in. The color associated with moon is white. And what is white? White is the hardest color to probably stay clean and pure and spotless. You wear white shoes, you wear a white shirt, you got a white car, it's only a matter of seconds or days before you spill something on it, before you dang it and get something on it. You know, it's hard to keep those things clean and pure. The color white, naturally, it reflects colors. White reflects light. And what does the moon do? The moon does not project its own color. The moon does not project its own light. The moon reflects the light of the sun. It mimics and copies the sun's light and makes it its own. Sun is the soul, moon is the mind. Moon reflects the soul. Moon is very important, but moon is more so a copycat. Moon is a mirror, it reflects things. Moon is a chameleon. It can be whatever you want it to be when you touch it, when you influence it. So therefore, when it comes to anyone, when they talk about moon through houses or whatever, you can only get so much information from the moon unless you know what is looking at the moon, what house the moon is in, and what sign the moon is in. That will give you a shitload of information. But if you're just talking about moon and you're generalizing it, well then you'll get, naturally so, very vague interpretations. So, just had to give you all those warnings. So, on a general sense, with Moon's seventh aspect, let's say that Moon is in the first house. It shows that naturally, the mind is aligned with the body. The mind and body is on the same page. Because the first house, the Lugna, is the forehead and the physical body, your physical existence. And moon represents mind and emotions. So it shows that the mind and the emotions are aligned together with the body. It shows you that the mother or mother-like figure can have prominent role, impact, and influence on your life. Very vital and crucial to your life. Because the first house is you being born. Moon in the first house with its seventh aspect shows that your physical mind, your mind and your emotions, it depends on, it thrives and desires a connection. It desires a partnership. It desires a unionship. It needs that seventh aspect to potentially feel balanced. That's what the moon feels like when it's in this first house. It'll feel like it needs a unionship. It needs a partnership in order to feel balanced, in order to feel stable. Typically, with moon's seventh aspect, that aspect is what the moon will probably feel, need, and desire in order to feel mellowed and balanced. So, that's essentially it. But I don't want to make the video too short, so I'll give you a few more examples of moon through houses. Let's say you have moon in the fourth house, and naturally it aspects the seventh house. It aspects the 10th house. Moon being in the fourth house, he'll feel great being in the fourth house. He'll be like, yes, I'm in the fourth house. I'm in the moksha house. I'm in an indoor four-wall dwelling. I just want to retreat from the world and be to myself, take care of my family or whatever. And that's another thing. The moon is a significator of happiness. And because the moon naturally rules the fourth house and is a significator of the fourth house in its quality and state is a significator of a person's happiness also in life. It's like the saying, happy wife, happy life. But that would more so apply to the fourth house in the D9 Navamsha chart. But for the birth chart, I guess the happy wife would be your mother, and assuming she's married or not. If the home life isn't good, or if the mother's life and health or whatever isn't good, then maybe your home, your household, your happiness will probably be in shambles if the mother isn't in good condition, or if the home isn't in good condition. So fourth house in the moon is also associated with happiness in one's life. So long story short, the moon feels very comfortable in the fourth house. You're someone who maybe want to keep how you think and feel private and only share it with intimate fourth house type people, or in private fourth house type comfortable dwellings and environments. And with the seventh aspect, you might want to take your fourth house qualities in your mind and impose it into the 10th house, which represents the career. It represents career and reputation and your impact on the world and society. So what you can see in general for someone who has moon in the fourth house looking at the 10th house is that, you could be, it really depends on the sign and all that stuff of the moon. But I'm being real general like I told you. Because you see, a moon in the 10th house could probably show someone who could be like a mayor, or a local leader, or like a union rep, or something. It represents local leaders. That's what moon can signify within the 10th house. So the moon could represent maybe like a neighborhood watch person. Or the moon in the 10th house could represent maybe like a mayor. Or maybe a governor. No more than a governor. But the moon could definitely represent maybe like a mayor or a governor or some type of local authority when placed in the 10th house. Or you could be like a local authority on your job, because essentially when you step into a position of power where you become a supervisor or a manager, you're essentially like a mother who's running a home. You become like a parent. The employees, they become your children. They become your underlings. And you become like their mother or father figure. You tell them what's right from wrong. You reprimand them. You correct them. They might hate you sometimes. It's like a child might be mad at their parent. And sometimes the supervisor or manager, they might have good intentions on why they're doing what they do. They might care about you. But oftentimes in the corporate business world, they probably don't care about you. They want to meet their deadlines. They want to meet their quotas because they got somebody over top of them cracking a whip on their back. So they therefore trickle down that pressure down to the employees. But let's not get too classism and philosophical with it. But Moon in the 10th house being, with Moon aspect in the 10th house being in the 4th house, could just naturally show that you could probably desire to be like some type of local authority within your work environment or within the world. You could just want to somehow, some way nurture the work environment, nurture the public, nurture the masses, be their mother, or whatever. And also potentially with Moon being in the 4th house looking at the 10th house, your sense of security could also be influenced by your career. By making sure that, you know, you're comfortable in your home, and by also making sure that your job is stable. Your job is secure. Like, okay, this is why the Moon feels real comfortable in this 4-10 axis. It's like, wow, I'm in home, and I got a good job bringing in nice steady income. I feel comfortable. Moon in the 4th house aspect of this, the 10th house could probably show someone who might desire to work from home, potentially. But let's give another example of Moon and the Moon in a house given its 7th aspect. What house do I want to choose? Let's choose the 9th house. With Moon being in the 9th house, this shows that your mind, your emotions, how you think could be greatly influenced by teachers, gurus, and teachings of a father or father-like figure. The mind could naturally be inclined towards academical pursuits and guidance from people who are in positions of authority and power. And with the 7th aspect, you might want to write about, communicate, and share with your neighbors or friends locally. You can just want to write about the knowledge and wisdom that you gain. So let's say that, I don't know, I'm just creating some type of example to fit what I'm trying to explain so that you can understand. Let's treat the 9th house like college. You went to college, you graduated, and now you are coming back home to your neighborhood. You're communicating and telling about your college experience with your local friends from where you came from or people in your neighborhood. You might, you know, with Moon in the 9th house giving off a 7th aspect, you just probably just want to write about and locally communicate or blog and just communicate the knowledge and wisdom you've gained from 9th house type of things. You can probably be like a journalist, because the 3rd house can signify journalism. And with Moon being in the 9th house, you can be real emotionally attached to your belief system, whether it's religions or politics or your teacher. You can be really emotionally attached to what you've learned, and to your belief system, and to your politics and all that stuff. And you can become an emotionally charged journalist or news anchor. You could be like a local news anchor, someone who just reports locally what's going on. You know, and you would probably really care about, you could probably be really emotionally attached and charged to the information that you're reporting and that you're writing and documenting. With the 7th aspect, you would feel as though you just have to probably write about the knowledge that you are that you've learned, or you feel that you have to share this knowledge with your youngest sibling or siblings, because the 3rd house represents the youngest sibling and friends. Let's see if there's one more example that I could give. I'll do Moon in the 2nd house. Moon in the 2nd house shows that You know, your mental state and well-being could really depend on your finances, because the second house represents your personal finances, and it can really depend on your appearance, because the first house is the forehead and the physical body, but the second house specifically represents the face. The second house specifically represents the face and the speech. So how you feel and how you think could greatly depend on how you look. That's a potential. And another thing, your spending could be greatly dependent on the state of the moon. If the moon is in negative conditions, receiving negative aspects, you might be a frivolous spender. Or just moon in the second house in general could just show that, you know, you might just carelessly spend a lot of money. Because the moon is constantly moving, constantly going through phases and cycles. So you might constantly go through phases and cycles with how you handle your money and all that good stuff. But anyway, like I said, the second house represents the family that you come from and your personal wealth. So you could be really emotionally attached to the family that you come from. Your family could have a great impact on your mental state, your mind, and finances have a great impact on your wealth. With the seventh aspect, you look at the eighth house of occult, mysticism, in-laws, death, transitions, and all that good stuff. The mind, you with the moon in the second house, could naturally desire to go to another family, you know, like you could desire to marry someone who might bring you mental and emotional stability through their own personal wealth and finances. You might be someone who might care about developing a connection and relationship with your in-laws or or the family or relatives of people who you are in marriage like relationships with. You having a connection in a relationship with your in-laws could probably be of great importance with the seventh aspect, with moon being in the second house. With moon being in, and another thing lastly, with moon being in the second house, getting the seventh aspect to the eighth house, is that you see that, you know, these people could be open-minded and have a natural keen interest to the eighth house things, which is the occult mysticism. They might not necessarily become like some astrologer or tarot reader, but they might be open-minded about the eighth house things. They might be curious about it. But say, I don't know if I should get a tarot reading, but I'll get a tarot reading. I want to see if it's real. Or I'll tell you a little bit about my birth chart information so that I can see if this is real. They might be curious about the eighth house things. So yeah, they might be curious about the eighth house occult mysticism things, but they might really depend on stability from their partner's family. They might rely on their partner being having financial stability, and that's just about the other things I can think about off the top of my head with the seventh aspect of moon being in the second house. But you get what I'm saying. With moon seventh aspect, it relies to an extent on that seventh aspect to provide it with balance, because the moon does not like to be alone. It needs to interact with someone. And yeah, I hope this gave you great insight and understanding on moon and its seventh aspect. And also don't forget to pay attention to the house that moon rules, which is Cancer, you know, because it's going to bring that influence of that house with its seventh aspect too. But thanks for watching, and see you on my next video.